Well, because Steve had said that his brother was hopefully going to join. Let's before we begin with the text, let's just open for a conversation. This is pretty much the same nucleus of the group that we've had before. Um, we said that we would do this week, and then in 2 weeks we'll also work with Proverbs with Mishle. But then if we continue, people wanted to look at more of a more of a narrative or a historical book. So let's open to suggestions or inquiries. One thought was just to go to Joshua, which begins the second part of the Tanakh, then start to continue through that and have the history right in its correct chronology. But others were talking about jumping ahead and maybe doing Book of Kings or Chronicles or something like that. So what are people thinking or desiring? Bless you,
I-
Gail.
Yeah,
Hold the fort.
I would love to do Kings, but that's just me, and I have no objections to, other things, so.
And why Taka would you like to do Kings?
Well, I like history, and I we've delved into it a bit years ago, and I really enjoyed it, but we didn't do it for very long, so.
Okay. Strong opinions here. Steve, you're muted.
You're muted, Steve.
Maybe he's not talking to us.
You're mute, Steve.
Yes, I realized I was muted. I'm sorry. I was helping my brother out with something.
Right. I thought that might be.
Okay.
He had the wrong link, but I heard the question that you're asking if there are particular books that I prefer to be starting with. I guess I kind of like the idea of one of the prophets because the language is very rich in
Right.
Hebrew, and I know Miri has has good knowledge of that, as does our rabbi, and if I'm giving the choice, that would be my number one. That's all.
Prophets are good.
I got a question about the prophets, Rabbi. Like sometimes I'll put on these YouTubes, and I don't know the source. The source could be throwing me off, far and left field. But there's a lot of things where they say there's prophets from way back in history, and they're actually showing what's going on today. What do you think about that, Rabbi? Like, if we study some of the prophets, is there anything where what they talk about way back in time is really a reflection, like, in the last times and stuff, or something like that?
Well, there's the whole stream and literature of I think this is what you're referring to, of what they call eschatology.
Oh,
That that uh, and I mean it's an interesting side agenda, I guess, of for John is to understand, many of the quotes or the
Can I jump
stories
in?
that are
Okay,
that some of these present the
this
literature,
group
the president
started as a
these books that
spin-off
talk
of
about.
the old Torah, the Saturday Torah, where it was mostly 70, 80% the members' impression of whatever it was they read. And the head person, Marty, then had brought in stuff. Is this series going to be more like the original Torah group or more like the adult ed? And I'm saying more than, not all the way, but more like the adult ed, where we have a leader who gives us a lot of information, and then maybe we discuss it a little bit. Because I'm feeling like this has become more of a lecture series than a group conversation. So I think that I think we have to make that decision.
Okay, let me. I'm sorry, Mickey. I didn't realize you were
Well, wait a
speaking.
minute.
Let me just kind of
It's not it's
answer
not
John for a
getting you
minute,
yet.
and then come back to your question.
I'm having to read your lips, but somehow or other now um
Why don't you use your cell
my
phone, Ricky?
captioning is slowed down. I talk too fast.
Probably so do I.
Yeah,
You could
Gail,
try another part of your house, maybe, has better reception. Sometimes that
Okay,
works
now,
for
okay,
me.
you could try another part of your house. Now that's all
Meanwhile, I'll
right.
say good morning, David, and Happy New Year, and
Good morning.
Good morning.
David.
All right. But let me go back to just
Yeah, the captioning's
giving.
caught up again.
Okay, so John, the point is that a lot of the literature and the things that they talk about today, where they talk about, oh, and prophecy says that such and such will happen in the end of days, or that such and such is going to happen, and Israel will be destroyed, or Israel will be victorious, and whatever it might be. A lot of that is built on taking many of the quotations from the biblical prophets and taking them out of context.
Okay,
So it doesn't
got it.
mean that it's false, but in order to really evaluate its validity, you have to see it in context. Now, frankly, much of that is what happened 2,000 years ago with New Testament also, with the gospel writers, and because when they didn't set out to write a New Testament or to teach a New Testament. What they were teaching was their interpretation of what the biblical stories or quotations, what they meant in the context of this new Judaism, this new Hebrew religion, new Israelite religion. They didn't call it Christianity at
Yeah.
all for a couple hundred years.
Oh, I see.
Their
Yeah.
audience was Jewish, or at least it was an audience that was familiar with the Jewish literature.
Yeah.
So when they took something out of context, people would understand, aha, I know where that came from and I can relate to it. And that's an interesting twist,
Yeah.
to as a, something like that. The reality is that most people in our day are not familiar with a lot of the quotations, or no, well, maybe with the quotations, but not in the historical context and parameters that it came out of, and what the author's initial frame of reference was. So that's what I guess, if we were going to look at the prophets, if we were going to look at Isaiah or Jeremiah or something,
Yeah.
or maybe we have to look at it within a historical context.
Right. Okay.
You know,
Got it.
so that's where I guess where I could fit in is
Yeah.
is helping people. We can certainly, as leading into Ricky's question. I mean, we can certainly discuss what the notion means, and what the message is that we think that the prophet is trying to bring on God's behalf. But what's the worldview at that point? The prophets of 2,600 years ago
Yeah.
weren't talking to us in our century,
Yeah.
and but we certainly believe that there are messages that we should hear and respond to.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But and Ricky, to your question, I would prefer not for it to be a lecture series.
Right.
That's certainly not my intent. I would, I would much rather that there be discussion, again, just giving the proviso that that A, we need the context, and B, and Steve and Rabbi Miri can help with this also, is that sometimes the English, I might say, leads us astray. Sometimes the translations lead us in a direction which are worthy of discussion, but again, not necessarily what the prophet might have been saying. So it's good to have the linguistic resource available in that sense. But no, I wouldn't see it. I would see it as a continuation of of discussion rather than lecture series.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Long answer. Sorry.
That's
No,
okay.
no, thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate
I couldn't do it with my mouse, but I happen to know what the function keys do. And the function keys turned up the volume. So now I can hear you guys. Now I
good.
Great.
I just have to figure out how to turn off the captioning. Captions, okay.
Well,
Hide.
everything that we say is so valuable that you can see it twice. You can
Yeah.
hear it and you
You
can read
can
it.
listen
So
to the
there.
recording.
Sometimes you talk so fast that the captions were way behind you.
Sure. Oh, sure.
I'm
Sure.
hiding
Okay,
them.
Ricky, just you can listen to the recording later on.
Oh,
if
no, I got you now.
Okay, so let's
Now I'm
continue now at talking.
100%.
Thank you. I think that Ricky was to the spot. I also don't want lectures. For lectures, I go somewhere else, the humanities or something like that. Now, Steve, I think it's not fair to the group that you and I and Rabbi Norm will talk about the Hebrew and the poetry of the Nevi'im, of the prophets. It's like teaching poetry in Hebrew. It's not fair. And the translations are not, that they are not going to give you what the Hebrew and the roots and so forth. Whatever we select, it's going to be more into the realm of history. History is always twisted anyway, but it will be, sequential. It's not going to say like in Torah, oh, why he said that before, why is saying it now, and is repeating itself, and so forth. So from Joshua, that is the continuation of Torah, we can go further if you want, as Gail said, Kings or Samuel or Judges or whatever it is there. I think that all of us can participate because the translations are not going to be as crucial. I mean, the Ivrit is not going to be as crucial as in the prophets, especially Isaiah and Jeremiah. You need to know that in Hebrew, and this is a beautiful thing, that all the modern poetry, all the modern speaking takes sentences from the Torah, from the prophets, and embed that in our speech. So it's like we'll do when we said, oh, you took the road less traveled, which has nothing to do. And that's one of the only ones I know in English, regardless of where it comes from. So my recommendation is go to something that's narrative, that's sequential, and not that depends on the Hebrew only.
Thank you.
I second that.
Now we have to choose.
Yeah, I like Joshua's the next, where
I
we
think
go.
that would be my recommendation also, or my suggestion is let's just, say, and let's continue with Joshua, and as Miri said, sequentially,
Yep.
and let's just go
Okay.
through the narrative and the history.
Good.
Good.
The
Okay.
thing I like about history too, and you say, and it's, there's so many interesting personalities
Oh,
that
yeah.
we really know very little about, you know?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that, I really enjoy that part. So
Okay.
unlike Aaron, who is a mystery to me. And always will be.
It disappears and it comes in another face and body. Oh, yeah, yeah.
There will be some other characters that could be
Yes.
mysterious,
No,
you know.
yeah, but Aaron is truly mystical to me.
Okay. All right. Anyone else want to pitch in with a comment on the thought? Okay.
No, I don't object to what's been said. You know, I'm open to anything. You
Yeah.
asked me what I prefer. That's personal preference, but you know,
Okay,
I can
Steve.
see the point of, you know, going into the more historical books.
Okay,
And
let's convince Rabbi Norm to join you and I, and we'll do Nevi'im, and we'll do prophets. How about that?
Yes.
maybe, yeah, if that works out, yeah.
Bivrit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big
Yeah,
Kev.
that'd be fun. That'd be fun. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, let's since some of us have to leave a little earlier, but
Yeah.
let's get it. Our bracha is Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I believe we stopped, and I I thought that we would finish up chapter 3. I think we stopped at verse 19 of chapter 3. With the context, yeah, because the last thing that we did was the Eitz Chaim, he. We didn't sing it, but we mentioned it, which is chapter 3, verse 18. So we'll start with 19. And the note that I wrote down is that the context is that wisdom, however we want to understand wisdom. Now, some of the commentators says that wisdom is just a synonym for Torah, and others is that no, you have to have not only Torah knowledge, but you have to have seichel. You have to have some common sense in there also. But that the what's the best word? I guess the context for the second half of chapter 3 is that truth or Torah or wisdom is the blueprint, if you will, the blueprint for all of creation. So the world, we acknowledge that the world was created out of chaos, tohu vavohu, null and void, and chaos, and whatever. And what gives it structure, what gives its order, that God is the master architect, so to speak, and that Torah and the wisdom that comes from Torah that's the blueprint for the best way to see how the world, the foundation of the world, how the world is built, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So keep that in mind. There are a couple of words that we need to try to discuss or debate and figure out what they mean. But if you start with 19 and actually go all the way through the end of the chapter, that's 35. If someone wants to read, and then we'll look and see if my interpretation seems to make sense.
I'll be willing to read, but first I noticed in 19, it uses two words that are the three of the crown of the Sephiroth, the wisdom and understanding. You know, so, and they put that in Kabbalah, that they're the higher, and that humans don't usually attain those are godlike. So I mean, I just noticed that the wisdom and understanding are two of the top three of the Sephiroth.
Are they parallel?
Yeah, and then there's the crown, which is higher than
And
the,
these two are in the same line.
yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ricky,
yeah.
I don't know whether you or Miri or want to, or anybody else. I don't think we necessarily have to. I don't think we can necessarily assume that everyone who's on this
Yes,
call
yeah.
right now knows what you're talking about.
Okay.
Doing
Doing most-
Kabbalah.
Okay, in you know
Well,
in
doing
in
Kabbalah.
Kabbalah. So do you want to take a step back and
Have that.
give a little bit of an explanation there?
I can give a little bit of an explanation there.
That's all I would ask and suggest is a little
In
bit.
Kabbalah, there are 10 Sephiroth. There are,
That what's
and
a,
it
no
has
that
a-
you're
yeah.
throwing in a word that people don't.
well, okay, you can call it a chakra, you can call it anything. It's just, you know, on the diagram, it's a circle. It's
Godly
an aspect, a characteristic. I don't know what else, what other words to use. There are 10 of them in Kabbalah. And I'm
Okay.
going to come down, I'm going to eliminate the top three for a minute. And aspects we understand: chesed, loving kindness; gevurah, judgment. You know, and naches. I mean, and then there's the base. You know, down to where our feet touch the ground. You know, picture it on a body, and so three of them. Well, seven are more human, and the top three are more godly. I'm just going to be very
Spiritual.
Okay, sure.
Spiritual.
And so this wisdom and understanding were a part of the top three, two of the top three. And then, as I said, okay, there's loving kindness, there's judgment, there's victory, there's, I mean, I don't have my Kabbalah stuff, it's in another room, another class I did, but aspects of the human condition, the human psyche, you know, you can almost compare them to chakras if you're familiar with the Eastern, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't really, but so I just noticed that here the Lord founded the earth by wisdom and established the heavens by understanding, put it into the top three, the godly, the more godly Sephiroth. Sephiroth is just a word to place the circle. I mean, it's not, I don't know what the English translation of that would be. Is there an English translation?
Well, I frequently will see it as spheres.
Is what?
Spheres.
Spheres. Hmm.
Spheres. And
Oh,
sphere.
spirit. Okay.
No,
Not spirit.
No.
Sphere.
No.
Spheres.
Oh, SPHERE.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Right.
Spheres.
Spheres.
Fine. That, you know, it's a strange word because I've never tried to translate it. You know, it's just one of those untranslatable to me words. So anyway, there's 10
Okay.
spheres,
Yeah.
and these are two of the top three.
Yeah.
Right.
Could I say something?
Please go ahead, Steve. Please.
Yeah, it's just in all due respect to what Ricky is discussing here, but of course, in different contexts, the same words can be used differently and have different meanings. So in the writers of the Proverbs or the initiators of the Proverbs, you know, we have to acknowledge they didn't necessarily have the Kabbalistic,
Orientation.
and intuitive meanings in mind. You know, sometimes, as Freud said, you know, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. You know, we don't want to necessarily insert, you know, more meaning than is actually there. And sometimes the poetry is beautiful, but it is very, you know, rigidly parallel and simplistic. They're just saying the same thing twice, you know, and for emphasis.
All right, I've got the Jewish Study Bible from the Jewish Publication Society, and in its notes, the 19, the highest praise of wisdom is that God himself possesses it. So that sounds again more in the direction that I was thinking of it.
Right. Right.
That founded the earth by wisdom and the heavens by understanding. And then it says, and continues to use that the welling up of springs and the descent of dew belong to both original creation and ongoing providence. So, I mean, that's the comment, the footnote.
Yeah. And the phraseology, and I think this is something that Miri was pointing out. The phraseology goes back to using many of the same terms in the creation story.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also
now creating them, and so instead of that on day 4 or whatever, God created this, it's the coming out of the darkness. Here's knowledge, and coming out of this, and and responding to the chaos. Here's wisdom, things like that.
Well, I'm going to go back to 18. I wasn't here whatever we were here last time. And it says the tree of life, because that refers to the tree of life in 18. Wherever she is a tree of life to those who grasp her. The tree of life was a widespread ancient Near Eastern mythological symbol, which is especially popular in the Mesopotamian palace reliefs. It represents a divine source of well-being and life, sometimes meaning eternal life. In Proverbs, the symbol has lost its mythological connection and is simply a metaphor for a source of life and health. So anyway, that's what that's the footnote preceding the footnote that I read before.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the present verse, the rabbis identified the tree of life with Torah.
Right. Okay. But again, what if the tree of life, from the standpoint of creation, the creation story, okay, back to Adam and Eve, that what were they missing? They were missing the wisdom or the understanding to be able to, on the one hand, follow God's commandment, right? On the other hand, is like I was talking about on Yom Kippur, is to not to be able to be accountable for themselves. So the Proverbs author or teacher or advisor, the proverbiist, is that what we were saying? The proverbist, whatever, is making the connections. I was saying that if you want to understand the world, if you want to understand the human condition, let's look at these. Yes, they later on are called Sefirot or Midot, or the Greeks call them the ideals. If you want to look at them that way, that's what God created, so that we can understand the blueprint of how the universe operates. Okay. All right. So again, I'll ask, do we have somebody who would like to start reading at 19?
Okay. The Lord founded the earth by wisdom. He established the heavens by understanding. By his knowledge, the depths burst apart and the skies distilled dew. My son, do not lose sight of them. Hold on to resourcefulness and foresight. They will give life to your spirit and grace to your throat.
Okay, hang on for one second. So I wonder why.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Okay. So what's different between the wisdom, understanding, knowledge that were talked about as the foundational steps in 19 and 20, but now in 21 and again, the Hebrew is different. Also, my translation shows wisdom and discretion.
Okay.
For what word? Tushia?
Okay, Tushia and Mizma.
Yes.
You're talking about on 19,
Tush,
wisdom and discretion.
right,
Okay.
Tushia. More modern translations are like resourcefulness,
Yeah.
right?
Initiative.
Yeah, it's not. It sounds like it might be related to the Hoshea or Yehoshua or something like that, but it's a different spelling. It's not related to the word that talks about being a savior or salvation or anything. It's different spelling. Okay, Miri, are you familiar with a Hebrew with Tushia?
Yeah, it's something related to being able to resolve problems. Yes, Lord, to see. We don't say that he's smart. Well, maybe not that he is wise, but more is smart.
Yeah, like I like that resourceful. I like that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Ricky, I'm sorry for the interruption, but
That's
I wanted to
okay.
point that out. Okay.
Wait a minute. Where am I?
22.
Yet, okay. We read 22. They will give life to your spirit and grace to your throat. Then you will go your way safely and not injure your feet. When you lie down, you will be unafraid. You will lie down and your sleep will be sweet. You will not fear sudden terror or the disaster that comes upon the wicked, for the Lord will be your trust. He will keep your feet from being caught. Caught in what? I don't know, but okay. Do not withhold good from one who deserves it when you have the power to do it for him. Do not say to your fellow, come back again, I'll give it to you tomorrow when you have it with you. Do not devise harm against your fellow who lives trustfully with you. Do not quarrel with a man for no cause when he has done you no harm. Do not envy a lawless man or choose any of his ways, for the devious man is an abomination to the Lord, but he is intimate with the straightforward. The curse of
He there means God, right?
the he, a capital He.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
The curse of the Lord is on the house of the wicked, and he blesses the abode of righteousness. At scoffers he scoffs, but to the lowly he shows grace. The wise shall obtain honor, but dullards get disgrace as their portion. Well, there's a lot.
Oh, geez.
Um,
This is certainly the
one
book
of the
of theory.
commentaries and I wrote down the quote in here, just kind of summarizing all of that. As wisdom changed chaos to order, so wisdom can change each human life.
Mhm.
And it's almost like if you look at like 27, 28, 29, 30, those they're all what obviously they're examples of relationships, okay, that don't do this because it's an abomination. Don't do this because that's not part of the blueprint. Again, Gail, yeah, please.
Did anybody else, I just noticed this, there's movement in that 19. It starts with the brain. We're talking about wisdom, understanding. Then it goes down to eyes. Don't lose your sight
Uh-huh.
of those things, okay? Then it goes down to the grace of your throat, your speech.
Your words.
Then it goes down to your feet, okay? And then at the very last, you will lie down and not be afraid. So there's movements from thought to your sight, to your speech. It's a
That's
beautiful
lovely.
thing. Yeah,
That is lovely. Yeah.
Thank you.
that's
I had
cool.
a thing I quoted once. Be careful what you think, it becomes what you say. Be careful what you say, it becomes what you do.
The
Be
same,
careful
yeah.
what you exact. Be careful what you do, it becomes who you are.
Yeah. It's just, this movement started from above. It goes way down to, yeah.
It becomes
Yeah,
who
very
you
nice.
are, yes.
Very nice. Okay, Steve,
Yeah.
please.
Wanted
Okay.
to say something, just kind of going back to the Hebrew of, the grace to your throat. It's more like, and of course, I'm not rejecting your interpretation, Gail, by any means, but I usually, when they refer to speech, they refer to the tongue or the mouth. The grace to the throat is going back to an image that's been used a lot throughout Proverbs, which is sort of equating words of wisdom to
Right.
jewels or like
Right.
things of value. So
Right.
it's saying this is, because people by their nature may be a little bit, materialistic. And so, and someone might say, these are just a lot of words. What good are they? A lot of words, but it's not, it's repeated that this is more valuable than a chest full of $1 million. It's
Right.
it's very valuable. It's as these words, what seem to be only words. If you really listen to what's being said, it's each one is a jewel for
Right.
them. So it's equating it to some imagery. There.
Well, obviously.
Something very uh, you know, uh, something
Well,
you
it's
can
all
feel and see.
Mhm.
Well, it's all imagery. I mean, that's,
Well, that's the part. Be careful what you say. It becomes what you do. In my little,
Right.
stepping down through whatever,
So
whatever.
we're like with it, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Those relate to interactions
with another
between you and your
person.
neighbor, whatever. Where does that fit into the blueprint?
Well, that's
okay.
what you do to do to other people. It's like the commandments. There's the few that are do not do this to other human beings, and then they do not do this to God. There's always that dichotomy of who you're doing it to.
But is that wisdom? Is
No, no,
it doesn't seem
it's
like
not
it's
wisdom.
either wisdom or the, as we
Understanding
were
that
saying, the resourcefulness or the bina or the understanding.
well,
That seems
I
very
would say,
straightforward, righteousness,
right. I was going to say I
which
would
is
put it
not,
down,
which
where
hasn't
it
been,
said,
righteousness hasn't been. I mean, we'll see it if we in a later chapter if we get there, but righteousness hasn't been one of these foundational statements for God creating the world, at least at this point, unless the teacher, the sage, the proverbiist, whatever is just kind of building up to it. But to me, it's striking that we talk about, what are all these different words, and we have chokhmah, and we have bina and tavuna, and mizma and tushia, and all those, but we don't have tzedakah. We don't have we don't have mishpat yet. We don't have justice. We don't have righteousness
yeah,
yet.
justice would be Gevora, wouldn't it? And what you're talking
No,
about, right?
justice is not
Well,
Gevora
it's,
is
I
that's
know.
more strength.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But it's the counter of the chesed and that's where we're at, that balance, trying to
Okay.
balance between loving kindness and judgment, or whatever,
Okay.
discipline, whatever word we want to use for
Yeah.
Gevura.
Steve, I know. Steve, then Miri, please.
Yeah, no, well, I think that, you asked the question of, why aren't we talking about justice? And actually, in the later passages, it does spell that out. It doesn't
Yes.
mention justice, explicitly, but it does talk about various interactions that you can have with people that all added up together kind of constitute justice. It's all different ways you can treat people fairly, or mentioning ways that you might treat them unfairly, and be wary of those.
For the record, tzedakah and tzedek and whatever are strong themes in chapter 21. if we get there, but
We're not going to get there.
we probably won't. But okay, right.
But I want to take this back.
Wait, let Mary
I'm
had something to
sorry.
say.
Go ahead,
Ricky,
Mary.
then you. Okay.
Tzedakah we have, in 20 we have the Orchot Tzadikim Tishmor, and the ways of Tzadikim, of the righteous, you shall keep. What I notice is that all the things that we are supposed to do are in the negative. It's like we say in the 10 Commandments, there are commandments of do, and there are commandments of
Lo ta'aseh.
don't do. So here, most of them, I look at them and they are what you should not be doing. And when you don't do that, I'm going to take care of you, and you won't have to be afraid or worry. So I don't know, what does it say? I mean, I'm just throwing it out, but it's something to know, what I noticed.
Okay. All right, Ricky.
All right. I'm gonna take the word justice back into Rabbi, you'll know where I'm going, to Micah 6:8. And what does the Lord require of you? Only to do justice and to love goodness and to walk humbly with your God. So justice is in here, but maybe it came up, but Micah is, in much earlier. If we went through the whole Tanakh, I don't know if we get it done within our life expectancies that we would even get to Micah. But if we go through the histories and the judges and the thises and the that's, but justice is in here. It's just not.
There's no question that it's in
Is it-
there, and it's not even that it's a later edition.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's the
All right.
top three.
It's
In
just
Micah, it's the top
in
three.
this when this framing
Yeah.
literaturely whatever. Okay. This
Literaturely?
framing of that in this particular chapter is
Okay.
that these God used, or if you want to understand God's universe, you need wisdom, you need discernment, you need all of those. But it I noted that mishpat and tzedakah, that justice and righteousness weren't there. I mean, it's in the book of Proverbs later, and it certainly is in the proverb, in the prophets. Yes,
Right.
but
Okay.
it just, I know, it's like people come up to, I'll give a sermon. All right. I don't know if Rabbi Miri has had a similar kind of experience, or anybody who gives a lecture, or, it talks about something, and someone comes up afterwards and says, I agree with everything that you said, but why didn't you talk about, or why didn't you include this? And, oh, you're right, I should have, or there's a good reason why I didn't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
I'm wondering what, if anybody has an idea as to what the reason might be that it's not here.
Actually, it is. If you look at verse 20, it says, so that you walk in a good way, and the way of tzadikim, so tzedakah, and then is ki yesharim utninim.
Wait. Not what verse are you in?
Yeah, that's
I'm
not 20.
looking at chapter 2.
That's a different chapter. Okay, all right, yeah.
But that's something that you need to be doing. he said it before, so he doesn't have to repeat himself.
But he repeats a lot of other things.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Go ahead,
Anyway, I
Steve.
just saw that word.
Go ahead. We don't need to belabor the point, but go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
That's it, that's it.
No, I just wanted to say, sort of restate what I said before. It's true. It doesn't mention tzedakah as a global concept, but it does go into details that, taken all together, that really do constitute behaving in a just manner. And that starts, I think it's on like 27.
Yeah, well, 27
It
could
starts
be
very specifically, it goes into details. So
could
you know,
be
like
understood that
any
way.
sort of you know, wisdom literature, it can't say everything all at once. You know, it says
Can't.
things, you know, one at a time. And there's always a little bit of an introduction about how practical it is, how useful it is, how it's every saying is like a jewel. Okay. And then you hear
Right.
the sayings,
Right.
okay?
Right.
And then you can see that, you know, that's not just talk, you know. It's worth something if you really pay attention to
Yeah,
what's being said.
and the word chesed, okay, I'm in Gimel now, I'm in chapter 3.
Okay.
Chesed ve'emet. Chesed
Right.
is very much like tzedakah. Chesed, and you know, that's doing well, and it's, where was it? Ve'emet. Lo yazvucha. They are not going to lead you in what Steve is saying. They are going to be around your neck like jewels. So there are other words rather than tzedakah. And perhaps, I'm not sure, maybe the word tzedakah comes, not that I believe in sequential, but maybe it's a later thing. I don't know. Did you see?
No, we do see tzedek, we do see tzedek, tzaddikim. You know, we see them in the book of Proverbs. Maybe,
Okay,
but not necessarily just
that's yeah,
in this particular section, you know,
yeah.
like I said.
But
Yeah.
chesed is very much like that.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. Let's just jump for a little bit. Jump to chapter 18.
Chapter 18.
Chapter
Oh.
18. Yeah.
Wow.
Chapter
Big
18.
jump.
Oh. Okay,
Chapter 18. Yeah.
got it.
Again, kind of like what Ricky was saying before, that you know, this is watch what you say. This is like, you know, the power of the tongue,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so to speak. And again, I would remind you that one of the ways of looking at this whole body of the whole book, the body of literature, is that this is kind of this is like a manual for the well, some people say it's for father to son. Some people will say it's like for the advisor to the king, and some people will say it's for the whatever you might call it, the someone who's an advisor to the judge, or maybe a combination of all of those. Okay,
So it's like a manual.
yeah,
It's like a
but
manual.
exactly, but it's like a manual. Here are things to remember.
Right. So who or what committee put this together? Is there a history? Do we know who put Proverbs together, brought it up, said this?
No.
There must be
No,
some
we
kind
don't.
of.
Let me go back to some of the things that I said at the very beginning with an introduction. See if I can find the notes. Rules of practical ethics, discourses on moral philosophy.
Right.
Um, the tradition was that King Solomon
Oh, okay.
wrote
Okay.
it.
All right.
Okay, and the tradition says, here's where I found my notes. Tradition says that Solomon wrote the Song of Songs in his youth. He wrote Proverbs in his middle age and wrote Ecclesiastes in his old age.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay?
That's tradition. Yeah.
Yeah, that's tradition. The Book of Kings, which we may or may not be reading soon, says it was written by the Zakanim, that's the elders. But whether
Oh,
that's just an honorific title, or maybe that may have been
yeah.
a professional guild.
The
We
committee.
we just don't know.
The committee.
But the most credible seems to be that it was written either by or for King Hezekiah,
Oh,
which is like
later.
around 700 BCE,
Right.
and it was certainly known as a text by the time at the end of the Babylonian exile, when Ezra and Nehemiah returned to Jerusalem, because
Oh, okay.
there's a reference that they brought with them
Oh,
the book of the teachings of Mishle,
okay.
which is
Okay.
Proverbs. So who wrote it exactly? We don't know.
Well, I don't know. The
Um,
first, my guess would be it's a
yeah,
collective
oh,
effort.
it's an anthology. It's a collection.
Right.
Yeah,
Of course. Okay. Thank you.
but the closest date that most of the scholars would agree is like 700 BCE.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. I
Yeah, no,
didn't mean
that's
to
okay.
get a
That's okay.
tangent.
So the notes that I made in looking through, and I just kind of picked out uh again for chapter 18, um is and especially uh uh once you get into the middle of the portion, the second half of not the portion of the chapter, that seems to be specifically advice or a manual of practice for judges. Okay,
Okay.
the beginning part, verses 1 through 9 or so, are again in that context of father to son or teacher to pupil, whatever. But as of verse 15, it seems more to be relating to the judicial system, and things like that. So if we have a couple minutes,
Mm.
let's just jump to verse 15.
Okay.
Okay.
We're in chapter 18, right?
We're
Right.
chapter
Chapter 18,
18.
verse 15. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, starting with 15. Like 15 through the way that they had this broken up was 15 through 19,
Mhm.
and then 20 through 24.
Okay.
All right. The mind of an intelligent man acquires knowledge. The ears of the wise seek out knowledge. A man's gift eases his way and gives him access to the great.
Okay.
The first to plead his case seems right till the other party examines him. The lot puts an end to strife and separates those locked in dispute. A brother offended is more formidable than a stronghold. Such strife is like the bars of a fortress. That's what.
Hmm. Whoa. Whoa.
Who's saying what there?
I know each.
And,
Where's those? No.
Okay. Oh, I thought I heard somebody saying something.
Gives his access to the great.
What I'll say is all the stuff on 18 is parallelism.
The structure, absolutely, it's parallelism. Right,
Right. Lot puts an end to strife.
right.
Actually, the first one, actually, this is the last verse in the chapter 17. I was sure that comes from Pirkei Avot, from the wisdom of our fathers. Evil yacharish, chacham yechasher. When a stupid person doesn't speak, everyone thinks that he is wise.
Uh-huh. Right.
Okay, keep going, sorry.
No, that's okay. There
Speak
are
up,
quite a
Mary.
few, there are quite a few parallels that you can find between, you know, and you know, the assumption is that the you know, Yehuda Hanasi or whoever was editing the Pirkei Avot or whatever, that he was familiar with the Mishle, the Proverbs, and just, you know, wrote them down as, okay, well, here's a good one, you know, or like Ricky said, well, as you know, I always heard this phrase,
Right.
and it makes sense, kind of, you know, that's good, that's good. Like I said, the good common sense. Okay.
Wait a minute, where is it?
So like 17,
Yeah,
17
17 is
versus,
where I was jumping.
I'm sorry?
At 17 is where I was jumping. The first to plead his case seems right till the other party examines him. And I
Right.
can even say that if I'm if I say something and I think I'm so right, and then I listen to what other people say, I am quite likely, not necessarily, but quite likely to maybe modify my thought or change it completely.
Yeah,
Because
and so if you're a judge, or if you're in a
well,
position
even
of
as a
having to make
human
a decision.
being, even as a committee member, or just what I do, or I'll really be mundane, you know, uh, buying groceries. I read one can. Oh, that looks good. All those nutritions. But then I read three other cans, and I might change my mind based on hearing other views from other manufacturers of that same product. So I mean, it's in all aspects of life. Hopefully, we are open enough to be able to change our mind and to listen to more sides than our own.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's what I got out of that. You know,
Do not jump to conclusions.
right? Exactly
Right.
what but
Right.
Wait until all the
What's
facts are.
what's verse 18?
the plot puts an end to strife and separates those locked in dispute.
The
What is
the
the
what
lot
caused
mean? Huh?
A lot cost starts to see.
What is
the
the
lot?
lot?
The
What is
lot.
the lot? The drawing of straws, pick a
Yes,
lot.
exactly. Exactly. It's the Goral. It's the same as in Purim.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I give you a
Sometimes the only way to get the decision is to flip a coin
But the
or to
coin.
draw straws.
Let me tell you, this is an actual today practice in AA. If they are electing an officer of some sort and nobody gets majority, and after the third vote, they literally just pull straws.
Of
Okay.
course.
Sounds
They
good.
just
Okay.
leave it up to God to pick.
Right. That's exactly what it is. That's the tradition in halacha. Okay,
Mhm.
when it's a question of Jewish law, and you know, it's, is it this or is it that? Is it this or is it that? And I'm not talking about tevya. You know, well, you know,
Okay.
you're right and you're right, and you know what, you're right. It's not that. It's when we can't tell, and there are any number of stories about it in the Talmud, but ultimately, what they don't say flip a coin or the goral or the lot. They say teku. Okay, it's an acronym in Hebrew. Tishpi yitaretz koshio tshuvo. It's that who's the Tishbite? Who's a Tishbi? Eliyahu, right? Elijah.
Yeah.
Okay, that Elijah will come and decide
Oh.
all of these questions.
Okay.
Right? So that it's like, well, okay, we can't decide, so we're not going to flip a coin right now, but we'll wait when Messiah comes. Elijah will tell us what it is. Yes, Steve,
Okay.
please. Steve,
Could I say something? Yeah.
of course.
Yeah. Just a different interpretation, because of course it's Hebrew and sometimes there are other ways to see things. Goral can mean lot, but it can also mean fate.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
can also mean fate. So sometimes, so you could have an alternative interpretation here and say, time will show what the proper course is. Sometimes we have to be patient and see what emerges during the course of time, and then it will be clear what was the right path. We don't always have to, and again, it's goes back to, we don't want to make hasty decisions. Okay, sometimes we just have to wait and see what evidence piles up and what emerges.
Absolutely.
So
no, that's very true. Very true.
So that's because I guess I'm a little bit disheartened that the wise men were advising us to flip a coin. That leaves something to be desired. That's
No, but it refers back. It refers back to 1633. Lots are cast into the lap. The decision depends on the Lord.
Yeah.
That's the last.
Oh, luck of the draw.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then
Okay,
I'm
my
gonna have to
friend,
leave
since
in a
I
minute
need
or
to
two.
leave
Okay,
too.
Mary, please. I'm sorry.
I have a medical appointment, so I
Oh,
need to
okay.
leave.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
too.
I'm gonna have to
It
leave
was a
too.
pleasure as always.
Okay, thank you for being with us. Just look at 19 for a minute, because I think this is probably something that everybody can
Are you talking
sadly
about
can agree
18,
with.
19?
Yeah,
18,
chapter 18, verse 19.
A brother offended is more formidable than a stronghold. Such strife
Yeah.
is like
Okay.
the bars of a fortress.
Right. Even I say this even in the presence of, you got two Marin brothers here, but family arguments sometimes can be more bitter
Oh,
than
God,
any
yes.
other stronghold, any other
Yeah.
fortress that needs to be attacked, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
My ex-husband found out he had an aunt, literally when he was about 40 years old. The strife with his father and that sister was so great that he didn't even know
Well,
that this person existed. So yeah.
Okay.
Heavens.
All right.
Great.
I'm going to have to leave.
Thank you.
My intention is that on 2 weeks from so the 29th,
Mhm.
Okay.
I want to look at chapter 21, and I want to look at, if I remember, we should remember all the time. It's 30. Well, where's Eshet
Well,
Chayil?
put it in your message when you send out the Zoom link.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
no, it's 31. 31 is
Okay.
Eshet. That's Eshet Chayil. That's a woman of valor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll do
So we'll
21
see you
and
on the
31,
29th.
and then on the 29th,
Gotcha.
and then we'll kind of have a group discussion and look at calendars and figure out if we're gonna start with Joshua and how we're gonna proceed with that.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just
Thank you,
quick,
yes, Steve,
quick
please.
question. Quick
Yeah.
question. Is it okay if I send you the link for that Zoom meeting, and then you send a message to Stacy?
Yeah, that's fine. Sure. Sure. It's on
with whatever
29th.
Details. Yeah.
It's on the 29th it's on the calendar already.
Right.
29th is. And then then we'll absolutely
There's a
send
Zoom
out.
link, but you could then tell her whatever details you want to put in the message.
Yeah, whatever
That's fine.
chapters
That's
we
fine.
should
Thank you.
pre-read. Okay.
All right, thanks
Thank you.
everyone. Be
Okay,
well.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Here, I'm going to stop the recording.